I've witnessed so many people willing to go far beyond what would ever be expected or required in their service to this institution.
Dr. Gary Agee,
Cleta Anderson,
Ken Armstrong,
Barbie Arrington,
H.L. Baker, Theodore Baker,
Dale Bales,
Lolly Bargerstock,
Norm Beard,
Dr. Don Boggs,
Delwyn Brown,
E.E. Byram,
Dr. Barry Callen,
Brian Chapman,
Stephen Curtis and Mary Beth Chap,
Scott Cheesebro,
Sandra Clark,
Dan Clark,
S.P. Dunn,
Ellen Daniels,
Carl Erskine,
Stuart Ernie,
Glenn Falls,
Pastor Todd Faulkner,
Jerry Fox,
Scott Fridley,
Bill and Gloria Gaither,
Angel Hall,
Roger Hamilton,
Becky Haskett,
Dr. Hartzell, Dr. Heverling,
Jen Hunt,
Dr. Hurlbut,
Gus Jeniga,
Diana Jones,
Carl Kadatsky,
George Kufeld,
Brad Lamb,
Lloyd Larson,
Mike Larson,
Art Leek,
Lonnie Leeper,
Dr. Linda Muth,
Doyle Lucas,
Amy Lopez,
Dr. Earl Martin,
Larry Maddox,
Andrea McLean,
Glenn Nichols,
Dio Okanii,
Tom Pappas,
Sandy Patty,
Lisa Pay,
Cindy Peck,
Beth Pitts,
Sidewalk Prophets, Leroy Quashie,
Dr. Rabel, Ruth Ann and Bob Ramsey,
E.A. Reardon, Willard Reed,
Bill Reithmiller,
Dr. Fritz Robertson,
Diana Ross,
Amy Rule,
Paul Saltzman,
Ann Smith,
Galen Smith,
Tim States,
Merle Strege,
Marie Strong,
Michael Thigpen,
Skip Trudeau,
Boyce Blackwelder,
Nathan Willoughby,
Jumpin' Johnny Wilson,
Tony Wolf,
Gertrude Watch,
Dick Young,
Russell Holt,
James
Earl
Massey,
John Morrison, Robert Reardon,
Robert Nicholson,
President Edwards,
John Pistol,
and a whole host of others.
James Earl Massey.
One of the most influential, impactful faculty members also was our campus pastor before he became a professor of New Testament, and then the dean of our School of Theology at the time, Dr. James Earl Massey.
a brilliant biblical scholar, preacher,
the Prince of Preachers,
teacher, and an amazing classical pianist.
We have a scholarship in honor of him, and Dr. J. Massey was actually the first campus pastor here.
He was gifted in terms of how he could convey God's word in a way that impacted people where they were.
Even as a middle school, high schooler, you still walked away with something that spoke to you, a message that you carried with you.
he wove webs of words that you get caught up in. And I'm talking even as a high school student.
And for me, it was just wonderful to hear him preach and then hear him play the piano.
Dr. Massey's influence stretched far beyond the Church of God.
He was such a champion for women in ministry, something that he would say repeatedly in his classes is anyone who opposes women in ministry is either knowingly or unwittingly in service of the devil.
His influence is outsized. It's still shaping the way we do things. His drive for excellence. He was just a different kind of person and left his mark.
Just a monumental force in the life of the university.
But he was one of our outstanding faculty members.
The interesting thing to me is that each president is so different to all the others. They are such unique human beings.
President John Morrison.
The first president, John Morrison, was actually grew up in Missouri and in a very humble beginnings, became a pastor in Colorado, and then got a call one day about perhaps coming to help out as an assistant principal at this new thing called the Anderson Bible Training School in Anderson, Indiana.
President Morrison's idea, the importance of giving your life to something that will outlive you or outlast you.
He actually ended up serving 39 years as either the principal or the president of the school.
President Robert Reardon.
He was succeeded for 25 years by Robert Reardon, who became president when he was 38 years old. And he had a remarkable legacy, as we can see with the naming of Reardon Auditorium, really helped bring the Anderson College into the not only local but regional recognition and even national recognition. If you look at some of the commencement speakers that came to campus when he was a president, it's a who's who of people who are known around the country.
So Robert Reardon, I don't know, I can't put my finger on what it was about him, but he helped me catch a vision of this place and God's working in my life. And I wanted to be a part of that. And I wanted to be a part of that when he was still here.
He was this person that was very warm, very down to earth.
I stayed because he asked me to stay. He said, Doyle, give your life here. And I guess I took him seriously.
He was president for several decades, and through, really significant decades in terms of U.S. history, the civil rights movement, and also university history.
President Robert Nicholson.
He was followed by Robert Nicholson, Nick as people called him, for 7 years.
Robert and Dorothy Nicholson had an incredible impact on me. They led the first Trias group to Japan.
And he had actually started the Anderson College Choir back in the day.
Nicholson oversaw the change from Anderson College to Anderson University and the reorganization that happened there.
President James Edwards.
Jim Edwards became president, and Jim served for 25 years also until 2015, the end of 2014.
I'd say Jim Edwards, President Edwards. He showed a lot of trust in me in naming me as the athletic director, and so it was really impactful.
So President Edwards was the president when I was a student here, and he had come here from being the president of Warner Press.
And just had some remarkable accomplishments also in terms of building here on campus, expansion, and just really helping move Anderson University into the 21st century.
President John Pistol.
And then some other guy came along in 2015 with no background in higher ed, and yeah, that's what happens sometimes.
Our current president, his wife, they're different to anybody we've had prior to this. They're different. They're unique. They're themselves. They bring a different kind of focus than anybody else has brought. So I feel blessed because they've been a part of my life.
We've had a number of outstanding coaches, some who are record holders still to this day.
It was really the Mockholtz brother who laid a foundation of success. Jim had some very, very good football teams. Bob had some excellent basketball teams that made it to the NAIA national tournament.
Carl Erskine.
Carl Erskine, who coached baseball here for 12 years, Hall of Fame Major League Baseball player for the Brooklyn and later Los Angeles Dodgers.
Don Brandon.
Coach Brandon for baseball was doing amazing things every year.
Winning multiple conference titles, district titles.
He moved up from Alabama to come to school here, Church of God kid in Alabama, and he got to be on a baseball team with Carl Erskine as his coach.
When I was a student here, I had him in the classroom and then worked alongside him when I became the athletic director and then became his supervisor as well.
He came back in 1972 to be the baseball coach. And we had T-shirts when I was playing baseball that said Bama Lumber Company, established 1972.
I just remember us having a really pretty dominant baseball team.
Number of All-Americans and distant conference players. Some who've gone on to play in the minor leagues and a couple in the major leagues in baseball.
Got over 1,000 wins, and I think 7 World Series trips.
The humility for somebody who has a long tenured experience here to go ahead and respect somebody who's in that role was really impactful for me.
He cared about everything about you, and he just loves his players.
Coach Brandon for baseball was doing amazing things every year.
Bama. Everyone just called him Bama.
Larry Maddox.
And an equally extraordinary success with Larry Maddox in both track and cross country.
Just an outstanding record again, NCAA, NAIA, multiple conference championships and many district championships, some national champions, individual champions in track and field.
It seemed like every year they were they were the conference champions.
And there are so many nameless people. They had names, their family knows them, but nobody's saying their name anymore.
We have faculty here who are experts in their field, but who really care about students as well.
But I really am taken back sometimes to think about the number of people who gave their lives to a certain kind of service, prepared themselves at Anderson University, and then went out and did modest things well.
I've witnessed so many people willing to go far beyond what would ever be expected or required in their service to this institution. And their commitment to caring for other people who are a part of this community.
There's so many people whose names we don't now know, or whose names don't ring out, that no one's writing about or naming things after, that have made such an impact.